Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about how we put and position the in and out flows of a filter and CO2 diffusers and other technical stuff in our aquariums. This is what we're going to learn today. So welcome to the beautiful world of aquascaping. With external filters, we lose a lot less space from the aquarium itself than with internal filters. That's one of the reasons we use them. But still, with an external filter, we have parts that are actually in the tank, and those are the in and outlets of the filter. So the inlet is where the filter actually sucks the water from the tank, and the outlet is where it goes back. The inlet and the outlet is usually on the same short side. This way we can make sure that the water makes a full circulation in the aquarium. If we would put the outlet here, so the flow would come from this corner, and we would put the inlet on the other side, then nothing would force the water to actually come back on the back side. So it would only be half a circle in the tank. Obviously there would be some flow in the back side as well, but not as much as we want. So that's why same short side. Usually we do it with the outlet being on the front of the tank and the inlet being in the back side, but they can actually be right next to each other. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but if the back side is really built up, for example, then you can pull the inlet to the front and they can be right next to each other. Another important thing is the positioning of the CO2 diffuser in a small tank. Obviously in a big aquarium we usually use external reactors, but in small tanks like this 60p we usually go with a CO2 diffuser, and the positioning is really important to make sure that the CO2 is equally dissolved in the whole aquarium. So if you take a look, we have the outflow on one of the front corners as mentioned before, and the CO2 diffuser is on the other short side. In this case it's in the front. It could be in the middle or even in the back. Again, it depends a bit on the hardscape and planting and how high you put the soil. But this is best case scenario, being it almost to the front glass, and you can move it further back if you want to hide it a bit and so on. You can see that the bubbles are actually all over the tank. Obviously they are concentrated on the place where the actual diffuser is, but you can see it that even right beside the outflow you still have CO2 bubbles, and obviously in the backside as well. This is important to have the CO2 all around the tank, and what's even more important is that this way we don't let the CO2 bubbles rise to the top. Whatever comes to the top, you lose it. That's wasted CO2. So that's why we want to keep it moving inside the tank and keep it as low as possible, so the bubbles dissolve in the water and they don't go out to the air through the top. And this is where lily pipes come in. Most people think that these glassware are only for their looks, and yes, they look much better than any factory solution with the plastic pipes. But it's not just for the looks. The shape of the lily pipe is made in a way that it creates such surface movement that can suck in some air from outside the aquarium without rushing out the CO2 dissolved in the water. And that's really important. That's why we always recommend, if you are installing a CO2 system, switch to a lily pipe as well. Don't use the factory spray bars anymore, because you lose a lot of CO2 that way. And with the positioning of the diffuser, it's also important where we measure the CO2 levels in the aquarium. And that's what we do with the drop checker. Now ours is blue because it's really early in the morning, the lights just went on and the CO2 just went on, so we don't have the perfect levels yet. But you can see that the drop checker is in between the in and out flows. So again, the other side from the diffuser itself. So as I mentioned, the bubbles going all around the tank, they should reach the drop checker. Obviously the drop checker doesn't really react to the bubbles themselves, but it reacts to the concentration of dissolved CO2 in the water itself. And of course, if we would put the drop checker right above the diffuser, the CO2 concentration would be much higher, so we would get a false result about our CO2 levels. We would think it's much higher than it actually is. So yeah, other side. If you don't run a CO2 system, and if you're still using the factory in and outlets of a filter, it's also important how you position those. The inflow would be the same. One of the short sides in the back, preferably. And then this would be a factory outflow. This is called a spray bar. They have this long line with small holes in them. The water comes from here, so this is the outflow of the filter, then goes into the spray bar and pushes out through the small holes. And if you have the inflow in the backside, then actually we would recommend putting the outflow like this. For example, in this tank, this one doesn't fit. You can cut this quite easily, and it's recommended to cut. The only thing is, if you cut more than 2 holes, then you should make the other holes a slightly bit bigger. So just use a small drill and make them a bit bigger. But that's it, you can customize the size of it. And another thing is how you put it. So what we recommend is about 1 or 2 centimeters below the water surface, so about here, and in a slight angle upwards. You don't want more surface movement than what we have, for example, in this tank. So we try to imitate the same with the spray bar that we do with the lily pipe. Obviously you can't really do the very same effect, but it should be quite close. And again, this comes on the same short side as the inflow of the filter. Never put it on a long side. So for example, if we would put it like this, then we would make a circulation of the short side of the tank, and that's not as effective as having it on the long side. And again, with the lily pipes you have a movement like this, basically horizontal circulation. But when you use a spray bar and it pushes the whole surface of the water circulation is actually going to be a bit like this. So again, why you have it on the same short side, both in and outflows, is because the water comes out of the filter, makes a full circle, and in here on the back side the filter can suck it out. So that's how you have a full circle in the aquarium. And all this doesn't really change with the big tank. The only difference would be is we wouldn't have a diffuser, you would have a reactor externally, so the CO2 is already dissolved when the water comes out of the outflow. So you can't really rush out the CO2 anymore from the tank, but still using a lily pipe is really recommended, and having the in and outlets on the same short side is recommended. For a very long tank, so anything above 140 centimeters probably, we recommend 2-sided filtration. So even if you have a filter that would be powerful enough on paper and would hold enough filter media to suit your tank, still we would recommend using 2 filters from 2 sides, just to make sure you have enough flow throughout the whole tank. And in a setup like this, you can go 2 ways. If you have quite a clean hardscape like this one, then you would put one of the outflows on the front corner and the other outflow in the back corner on the other side. And with the suction sides, same, just the other way. And this creates, again, a full circle. If you have a really built up hardscape, so you have a lot of stuff in the back side, then we would recommend putting the outflow on both front sides, and they actually work against each other, and they make a circulation that collisions in the middle of the tank, and it turns around, and you have basically 2 separate circulations inside the aquarium. I think that's it. We've covered everything. Let us know in the comments if this was new to you or this was helpful. And yeah, see you next time. Goodbye. Oh, thank you. It's so early in the morning.